leader tells. The good leader explains. The superior leader demonstrates, and the great leader inspires. So that's how we try and run this. We try and actually have this conversation above the telling and explaining level and more on the level of demonstrating and inspiring. So, so that's the first one by William Arthur Ward. Kim, it's so good to see you. We've been concerned about you, so glad you're here.
Me too. To stand out there and say what?
Yeah, all you guys that were in the eye of the hurricane. Brutal. Um, Second quote. Um, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word, such as freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope, or in the case of what we're up to today, tribe. So that's Winston Churchill. All the great things are simple and many can be expressed in a single word. And then the third quote is from Socrates. And the Socrates said, the greatest way to live with honor in the world is to be what we pretend to be.
Hmm.
So that's just a little something to kind of kick us off into the abstraction of TribeUp. And of course, we're blessed to have Brett with us, the guy who invented the distinction and is laying it out for us in a way that's useful. I know that all of us, or many of us, are getting tremendous value out of it. I've had several calls from people who are talking about how this is totally empowering and enriching their lives. Brett is today in Las Vegas, and he's there to meet with his daughter, who will be coming in. And he's in a hotel room, and he has a concern that his internet is weak, like that. So I don't know. In the world of woo-woo, let's all just kind of intend that Brett's internet stays with him. He's looking quite formal. He's got on a suit jacket. And so here we go with our good friend and dear colleague, Brett Labit.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Good to see you all. I'm using the juice of my iPhone right now. The hotel just couldn't cut it. So if I start to cut out, just let me know. But I think we're okay, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. All right. Well, last week was fun. Why don't we do a quick lightning round? And Ross, we'll start with you. Just what showed up for you this week after last week's call?
Thanks, Brett. Relationships. It's all about relationships. Lydia.
Being lightning fast about assessing whether someone's in the tribe or not based on that gut feel, which is usually accurate. RDs.
I think mine is the same as Ross. Relationships. I've seen and talked to more people than I have in a long time. Um, I will pick Tia.
Honestly, I'm not really present to anything.
Okay.
Ben.
Just something simple John said about us paying attention to mapping Brett's concepts onto ourselves. It was a good phraseology.
Go ahead and pick someone, Ben.
I'm gonna do Annika or Annika.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so I reflected actually quite a bit on the relationships I have and or at least the people around me, and realized that a lot of interactions I have still come from a more identity related setup. Like, I was a leader in business, so I have a lot of people I was interacting with coming from that business purpose. And I was quite inspired, Brett, by your honesty in saying, okay, I'm putting everybody back on, intention, to really review what is it that I'm intentionally creating. So I started to do that, and I'm very curious what is coming out of that. Yeah, but it's in progress.
Good, good, good.
Kim.
Well, I listened to the last 2 weeks of your conversation, so I'm very overwhelmed right now with insights. The one that's present is I'm not sure how to choose intentionally yet because I've been receiving whoever comes in and choosing to love them. And now I get to be more strategic. I'm not even sure how I can evaluate that right now.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see. Peter.
Kind of similar to Kim, but I'm really good on the outer four circles. I'm realizing I'm not sure how to choose intentionally on the inner circle, and it's going to take an enormous amount of intentionality and willpower to actually choose in the inner circle because there are people that you spend the most time with by default with work and family and everything else. Max Miller.
Thank you, Peter. I'm just really wrestling with and struck by the criteria of time in this model. That's what I'm with. Let's see. Christian.
Thanks, Max. Mostly reflection, just looking at the different circles and who's in them currently, and actually detaching myself from any pressure of where to put people right now. Like just be in it and see where they are, and they may move up a rung in the circle or down or whatever it is. And I'm just kind of open to seeing how it goes with what we have next, and then just kind of creating it intentionally.
Great.
Max Paul.
Well, I think this week was a celebration of the inner circle. I listed them, wrote them down. One in particular that I needed to get a refresher and say, where are we on this? This has changed a little bit over the years, and you were at the top of that list, and now you're at the bottom of the list. So just recalibrating, and then celebrating the. I think with like what Lydia said, the celebration of discernment, of quickly being able to say, that's a no, that's a hard no, bye. Here's my phone number. Yes. And RDs?
RDs is gone.
You have Sakina,
Sorry.
Allison.
Josh?
What's present for me is I'm happy to be back here. I am behind, so I'm going to do a lot of listening today, and I'm happy to be healthy. Conti.
Thanks, Josh. I'm with Tia. I felt I was in that progress before these sessions. So if anything, it's just made me evaluate quicker, faster. But yeah, I will go with Ross.
Oh, Ross is gone.
I already went. Let's go with Sakina.
Hi. So what's coming up for me is effort. Just being more mindful, right? When you're in interactions with folks to just kind of see, you're in the conversation, but it's also like you're observing the conversation to see like, what circle they belong in, or do they really belong in the circle that they're at? So effort. I'll call on Johar.
So I think for the last couple meetings, I've been thinking is rather than seeing like who I want in my circles, I'm looking into the people I have, what influence I have on these people, and are they in the right circle or not. So I've been trying to rethink all my connections and say how much influence I have on them, and are they the right people to have influence. And so that's what I've been doing.
Great. Allison?
I've been present to the fluidity of the circles as it relates to actually coming back to ping. Knowing that people, excuse me, move fluidly throughout them based on action, inaction, based on choices. I've had a tendency in the past to be all in and to give a lot of my time to people that are not necessarily in those inner circles. So when they come back in as a ping, really being intentional about what do I want from this interaction, just because they were in my inner circle at one point or my relationship circle or connection, doesn't mean they are right now, and really being honest with myself about how much time I'm investing with a ping.
Great, great, great. Well done, everyone. Well, we left last week with the inner circle, and we kind of went through it really quick. I think we should talk about it just a little bit, and then we'll move on to the 10 categories. But yeah, Allison, if you don't mind, if you'd pull up the inner circle, that slide. So, Peter, I love what you said. This is definitely something we really should consider if, in fact, there is some validity. Go ahead, Allison.
Any sharing permissions?
Yeah. Sorry
Please.
About that.
That's okay.
If there is some validity to Jim Rohn's thoughts that we are the 5 people we spend the most time with, which I wouldn't say that is just fast and hard the only distinction, but that certainly is one. I do believe that if you want to build, grow, or scale anything, you need a strong inner circle. I think that if you want to build, grow, and scale a family, you need a strong inner circle. So it doesn't matter what we're doing. I think the richness flows out of this first circle. And if that's dysfunctional, I think the other 4 are going to be troubled a bit. So none of this is fact. It's just, this is what I've been exploring for years now. And it's really interesting in this 5-circle framework, how time has become kind of the gauge. If you think about it, in ping, ping is going to be your largest collective investment of time because you have more people. But it's going to be the smallest individual investment of time. Make sense? Then when you move into intention, what you're literally doing with intention is you're increasing individual investment and you're decreasing collective investment. And then in connection, you're measuring, and that's typically going to be fewer people in the connection circle. And then in relationship, the investment individually gets considerably higher than intention, and the collective investment decreases. So what's the inner circle? The inner circle is the smaller group of people that you spend the majority of time with. Could be a spouse, best friend, coworker, boss, employee. So this becomes a little bit tricky, but you can start to see now around you, and some of you are doing this, like, who am I spending the majority of time with, and what is that equating to? So anyway, it's just something to be aware of. I like what Christian said. It seems so rigid and hard and fast, but then at the end of the day, you get the framework and you just kind of let it go. And this just becomes part of the operating system in the background. At least that's what my intention with you would be, is that this just becomes a way in which you look at life. It's operating in the background. It's kind of part of the operating system. And as you're discovering people and you're choosing for importance, you're understanding more about your design, and that your tribe is an overlay of your life by design. These are the relationships and friendships and co-workers and projects and partners and co-founders and investors and colleagues. And so what we're going to get into next kind of breaks down those groups. And so Allison, if you want to move on to the 10 main people categories. I wouldn't say that this is it, but as far as I can tell, this is it. And these are the 10 groups of people that you interact with typically in your tribe. And I think it's important to understand this because you can start to see maybe at some level of importance what each group might be and allocate. And if you look at this like a like a budget, even the wealthy have budget. The uber wealthy budget. They budget time, money, and energy. And so what this structure is meant to do is give you the tools to look at how you're investing time, money, and energy into different important parts of your life. And the thing that I would, submit here is that oftentimes we invest heavily in, let's say, our highest aims. I'm building a corporation. And while I'm doing that, I'm neglecting my kids or my family. And when we put this into visual and we put this into practice, I believe that we begin to be mindful of all of the important areas of life. And if you're doing that, then you realize there's not a lot of room for fluff. There's room for kindness and compassion and even love to the people you meet. But it doesn't mean everyone can be part of your tribe. There's a finite amount of time, money, and energy. You can expand it. There's availability and abundance and access to more, not time, but money and energy, some energy, but money for sure. But whatever it is, it is. And so you're stewarding and investing based on these groups. So the first one is immediate family. And I'm not going to define any of this for you. I will tell you that over the years, I've asked people to do different exercises, like go to your friends and ask them what friendship means. Go to family. I've done this with my kids. What do you think immediate family should be? What do you think it should mean? How should what would our values be? What are the things that are important to us as a family that we should be focused on? So first one is immediate family, second, extended family, third, family by design. So I'll pause right there and just tell me, let's look at some thoughts on these three, just immediate family, extended family, and family by design. And we don't have to go through everyone, but I can't see the group. But who wants to maybe contribute something about family? Anyone? Let's go with, I'm going to do Christian since you're there with your dad.
Okay, yeah. Definitely number one in family, that category is in my inner circle. I'm very present to that. They're all in my inner circle. What I noticed on the chart that you just showed is my extended family. I don't know where they are because they're my extended family, like my cousins, my aunts and uncles and so forth. Like I rarely interact with them. So I immediately kind of put a judgment on myself that why is number two distant on the different rings of the circle? Shouldn't they be in the inner circle? Like I kind of judged myself a bit for that moment.
Okay. It would be interesting to explore why. Do they need to be do you feel they need to be? I went through the same thing. But yeah, the question of why would be a great one there.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to draft behind that. Recently, I created with my cousins who are in my tribe within the family, the ones who align and have a lot of juice, with the last living uncle, that we have calls, we have monthly calls. So those bonds are tight, and our sense of family is very connected. We're connected to our ancestors. We feel linked with a very finite amount of time. 1 hour, we're connected, and that all feels like it's peace and harmony. But it was life by design to cause that to be present. But it's not everyone in the family, because there are people we don't like. So
yeah. There's that. Max.
Well, kind of in contrast to what Christian was saying, as I was looking through my, who's where in my circles, I realized that several of my cousins, I spend more time with several of my cousins than I do with several of my siblings. I got a big family, um, but it's just a matter of time that I'm clearly spending more. And I recently wrote a letter to an email to my brother saying, let's spend more time together, because we had all been spending time together around my mother who passed away. And I said, let's not let this go. And he wrote back to me this long, lovely letter saying, I don't have the bandwidth. And it was kind of shocking to me to have him say that. But, he's got 3 kids and grandchildren, and I don't. And I just had to kind of get that and see that that's my reality. So,
That is
yeah.
perfect, Max. Perfect. There are things that we want them to be a certain way, and then there's just the reality of what they are. He can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
And so these choices become very important, because I can remember just telling my kids as they were younger, yeah, we'll do that after this. I've got an appointment, or, there was choosing one thing means you're simultaneously unchoosing many other things. So what really occurred to me over time is I got to get good at choice.
Yeah.
So that's a really good example, Max. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to
Anyone
put
else?
one pin
Yeah.
in it and say this whole thing. In the lightning round, I said my awareness has been around the criteria of time in it, and I mean that's just sort of the theme of my life at the moment, is recognizing the finiteness of time and just really grappling with that we're all going to die, and we don't know when, and that is going to be it. And inside of that, the game gets to be played.
That is, you and I are in the same boat. Anyone else? Okay.
I just
Yeah, go ahead.
want to say, like, you have 3 categories for family: immediate family, extended, and adopted. And I'm from Pakistan, so we just have one family. So it's like, it's not just my father and mother and my sibling is a family, but that belongs to the whole big tribe of family, right? So, but I see anytime I see somebody on the TV, that everybody say, family is so important to me. I will do whatever it takes to, save my family or something. So I think the definition of family is also, I think, important to understand what family means. Right?
Yeah.
So you have.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, Allison, if we can bring the slide back up, please. So number 4, friends. Is it possible a friend might be closer to you in your circles than even immediate family? All the time. So again, things are what they are. We would wish them a certain way sometimes. I think the disconnect between the way we want them to be and what they really are is what we're working on. 5 partners, 6 mentors, teachers, coaches, advisors, colleagues and teammates, clients and customers, providers, vendors, suppliers, and acquaintances. So clients and customers, are they all in your tribe? No, I think Peter, you were saying no, is that right? Yeah. Oh, you're muted. Go ahead, Peter.
Depending on your business, I don't think you have space for all of them. I mean, there are some who are not, but if there's an intimacy to the business you deliver, then they are, yeah.
This gets juicy here, and I love this one. You could have 1 million e-commerce customers, but you don't interact with them continually. You could have a core group of advocates that you do interact. You can have customers that become part of your inner circle.
Yeah.
So you realizing that everyone cannot be part of your tribe and that time is what determines that. How much time do you spend? Now, is it, if you've been in business or you've been in any role where you grow or build or scale a business, one of the common mistakes people make is they spend too much time too soon for too little return with too many people. So, and what does that mean by default in this framework? It means you've incorporated them deep into your tribe. And there's cause to that. So this makes us a little more mindful of how much time we're investing in people early on and how important the discovery process is, how it's critical to choose for importance. You know, in the world of relationship management, there are lead scoring systems for clients and customers, ABC. That's almost what we're talking about here. Don't want to make everyone feel like a prospect, but we are kind of doing that in every part of life. Like how important, we're not determining how important this person is in life. We're gauging how important they are for the investment we're going to make in our life by design. So any questions about the 10 people categories? There might be more, but go ahead, Ross. Yeah.
Brett, when just in general, a thought came up, and I'm wondering if you guys have thoughts on this. We talk about spending time, and to me, that's quantity and quality. So, but I think I've only interpreted spending time as quantity. Do you guys have comments on quality of time, quality of interaction?
I have a remark to say about that. I think perhaps the nemesis is something to consider about in the range of quality of time. They're definitely in your tribe, devoting attention if you have one of these nemesis. But then you'd have to gauge how dirty or clean the input of the info or the interaction was, I would say.
Good. Anyone
I'd
else?
like to.
Can you say that?
Yes.
Actually, sorry, Ben, can you say that a different way?
Well, the concept of a nemesis, at least how I see it, is that there's somebody in your life that's maybe a mirror or a reflection of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the cues that you get from the nemesis are maybe things that you're seeing about yourself that you want to change because they're exhibiting it. And you want that to be the signal to yourself to say, I'm going to take that input and I'm going to make a conscious effort to change that. And the synthesis is the sweet, it's is what you want to achieve, but it maybe wasn't necessarily palatable to reach that conclusion.
Okay. Thank you.
In the book, Customers for Life, one of the things for me is that in order to have a client or customer, I expect them to be customers for life in choosing each other and vetting each other. And then I expect to be friends with them the rest of my life. I don't see it as outside that. Now, my clients are, if they're customers for life, they're going to spend a lot of money, and it's going to be 3 or 4 times a year. And so it's not like selling things on the internet where when you have 10,000 customers, that's a different thing. So in order to do something with an aviation company, we have to get acquainted, make sure that the integrity is there, they're really working together. So for me, the excitement of these circles is that those on that client category can still be, as you said, Brett, in the inner circle as well. Sometimes are.
Correct. Yeah, and everyone's business is different. Your client count is different. Anyone else want to speak to Ross's point? Allison.
I just wanted to say something quick, but I think for myself, I found I also assessed quality versus quantity with the factor of time. And as I got more clear about where people, places, and things stood in the circles, the quality was, I don't want to say better, but it was more enriched the closer that the relations were for me.
Good. Ross,
Yeah,
Mike.
I would like to, what I'm getting from this, Brett, I don't know this is accurate, but what I'm getting from this is from your previous example, you talked about from the fifth circle coming in, the quantity diminishes as you go. So lots at ping, little less at intention, a little less at contact, and so on like that. But I also am hearing that the quality increases, the quality of the relationship, the quality of the whatever it is, the interaction that you're having actually is enhanced or, like Allison said, enriched as you go towards one. So as quantity diminishes, quality enhances.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have an answer yet. I'm still exploring, but what I would say is, John, you're right. Allison, you're right. Everyone's right. Go back to ping. If I meet you and we're in Discovery, and I meet you in Vegas this week, and it's a 5-minute meeting and you're in ping, is there less quality in that 5-minute meeting than an inner circle 5 minutes with my daughter? There isn't for me. I can only be in that 5-minute ping. I am where I am at that moment. So the quality is there. Wherever I am, that's where the quality is. If I meet a stranger, even if I'm not going to tribe with them, they're not even going to be in my tribe. Why would the quality be any less than 5 minutes with my romantic partner? If we truly, truly want to show up in the world for people the way that we say we do, there can't be less.
Brett, I think
there. Yeah.
Sorry, I think that's the distinction right there. If you're laying out a model and the assertion that I'm hearing is that your world falls into these circles whether you're conscious and intentional about it or not.
Correct.
But when you bring intentionality to it, and when that intentionality is about creating a life by design, then that brings a certain quality to each of those experiences. Bringing that intentionality raises the quality because the other way, life not by design or by default, if you will, is largely unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be part of your model, but it's definitely an overlay that we can see affects the whole experience of it.
That is definitely there. There's choosing and there's allowing and tolerating. There's throne and there's design. There's conscious and there's unconscious. So what I would add to that for Ross's question is it might be a 5-minute ping, but what am I actually controlling in the moment? First, I'm going to show up because that's the only place I can be in the world. There's nowhere else I can be but right there. Why not put all the quality into that 5 minutes? But what I might do is keep it to 5 minutes. I'm probably not going to let it run on and on and on because there are other places to be and other places to invest. Now, if the discovery is that this is a very interesting person, I choosing for importance, I see them in my life, then I'm going to invest more time there. So the quality for me, I'm practicing for the quality to stay the same. What I'm also practicing for is the stewardship of the time. Make sense? Not right
So,
or wrong.
that's good. That's an insight. Thank you very much for that, because I get that what you're saying is a rose is a rose is a rose. That is, quality is quality is quality. And it's
Yeah,
all dependent upon you. It has really not a lot to do with whatever the circle it is that you are spending your qualitative time in.
yeah.
Okay, that's very clear.
Beautiful. Okay, so where were we? Anything else before we move on? Ross? Good?
That was great. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, everyone, for the input there.
Beautiful. Okay, so Allison, we'll go to the next, I think we're on to the 7 eyes, and we'll just breeze through this. So this is just an overlay over the 5 circles that I think helps remind us about choice. The first 4 in white are really about choice, and then the other 3 are effect. So the white is cause, and then the other 3 are effect. And of course, always working in cause, but the effect begins to show up in influence, impact, and intimacy. So as we just spoke about, we're choosing for importance when we're in ping, and we're choosing, and the way the circles work, and I'll repeat this, is whatever we're talking about in the outer circle, it remains throughout the inward circles, but not the other way around. If you're talking about characteristics of the inner circle, it doesn't mean they're in the outer 4 circles as well. Does that make sense? So it works inward, but it doesn't work outward. So choosing for importance, we're going to do that through every circle, but it's most critical here because you're inviting people in for what? What are you inviting them into? A bigger chunk of your time is what you're inviting them into. So choosing for importance. Now, what does that look like? Well, maybe you're building a company and you are looking for a certain employee, or a certain hire, or a co-founder, or an investor. And you've got to have a lot of conversations to discover. And you don't want to, you know, what we all do is we pitch, share, and it falls on deaf ears because we're not doing discovery. We're not really listening to find the right people to actually share. And what's that doing? It's investing time. It's allocating time. So getting more intentional about that. So choosing for importance. Then once you choose for importance, the process of nurturing the relation, at this point, it's still relation to me. The process of nurturing relation into its highest and best form is follow up and follow through. Follow-up is, what is follow-up? Do you guys remember?
It's
Anyone?
yeah, doing the actions that were decided or
Correct.
and follow through is the process.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Great job. Follow-up is completing the promise, and follow-through is continuing the process. Now, if you were to go back to the 10 people categories, the process is different, likely for each category. The follow-through process is different for a friend than it is for a client or customer. In fact, you can automate client and customer follow-up and follow-through through tools. Part of the TribeUp app that we're going to share, we're building automation that helps you actually follow up and follow through with all of your circles in all workflows, ultimately. So that'll be a helpful tool. So I3 interaction with intention, if there isn't interaction, then there is no intention. There's got to be some interaction for intention to be true. And then I4 is investment. The investment that we're talking about here is adding value or contributing in ways that are important to them, not to you. See, this is where people get tripped up. As you're choosing people important into your life and to your life by design, this is really to their benefit if they choose you as well. Because in this practice, once we've chosen them in, we're really trying to make this about them. We're adding value to them. We're supporting, we're nurturing, we're finding ways to add value where it matters to them. And how would you know if you're not listening, if you're not really invested in the relation? How would you know what's really important to them? So this requires listening. I'm going to admit Kim fell out. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one question on the importance. So, I mean, I can only create a life by design with my current understanding or worldview. Yeah, so I would choose people that somehow fit into that picture in a way. But sometimes it's important as well to get in the disruption, you know, to meet maybe somebody who is not fitting in because this person has the key of, you know, creating greater growth. Yeah. So if everything I do is choosing actively from my current picture, I might miss out on those opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, great point.
So how would you know that when choosing for importance?
I think choosing one thing means you simultaneously unchoose many other things. And when you meet people and you're choosing for importance, I think you need to do it from a very mature place and realize that it's not always who you agree with, who you like. Maybe it's intuition, resonance. There's something. I believe there's always something there. And they may cause a lot of chaos in your life, and it's exactly what you need. But you're still choosing for importance. We're swiping left or swiping right in life. It's what we're doing, whether we like that we're doing that or not. And I don't know which way is the keeping way, the importance way, but we're swiping one way with people we meet, right? We choose who to have conversations with, who not to, who to hang out with, who not to, right? So this is happening. And I think the more mature and evolved we become, we're better at discovering. Again, I don't like choosing for like-mindedness. I like choosing like-hearted, like energy. So if I feel that we can interact in a cooperative and potentially collaborative way, then I'm probably choosing for importance. But Annika, I don't have a straight answer for that other than the more we evolve and mature, I think the better we are at even choosing people, places, and things that will challenge us greatly. Anyone else? Okay. When we invest in the relation in ways that matter to the other person, our influence grows. And influence is the capital to fund your life by design. Without a voice, without being seen and heard, John says it this way. He says, we listen people into existence as a greater possibility. It's a great practice for all of us to be in, but now reverse it. How would you become a greater possibility? People need to listen you into existence as one. What is that listening? Well, some people grant it. The rest of the time, we have to earn it. The earning of influence is by choosing importance, becoming intentional, interacting, and investing. Right? When Tony Robbins is on stage, he's investing. He's investing insight into people. And that results as influence. Not with everyone, but with whoever it results with. And when we have influence, then we can get to impact. And with impact, and this is a big discussion, and we're not going to do it here, but with impact, we develop and can build intimacy. So I don't have anything to say to frame that other than it would be fun for you to actually ask what that means for yourself. Okay. All right, Allison, I think you can shut it down. All right. So I think I'm complete on the framework for now. Maybe someday we go a little bit deeper, but John, I think as far as I'm concerned, that's complete. And if you want, we can do a kind of a summary on that part as far as like a lightning round, or what would you like to do?
Well, maybe you want to, would you like to put people into groups and have them kind of work with each other about what they've got and so on like that, then bring them back and have them share perhaps?
Sure.
You got
Sounds
plenty of
good.
time.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend groups of three. And in the groups of three, you will be in turn a speaker, a listener, or an observer. And the observer's job is to kind of keep the conversation on point, the speaker and the listener, and just rotate. And it looks like we could probably take about, well, let's see, maybe 3 minutes apiece, which would have us in the group for 9. So give it like 10 minutes for the whole thing and then come back and then we can outflow any insights. The purpose of the conversation would be what are the insights? What's coming up for you? What are you present to? You can kind of start from there in your group,
Perfect.
if that's something you'd like to do.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay. We'll get Peter to kind of manage the getting us into the groups.
I'm building groups.
Okay, perfect.
The random group creator put
Everybody do a card trick or maybe a little magic conversation before you.
all right. So
Well,
let's see.
Peter
It's
is doing.
not scheduling me or John. So John and I are going to jump into rooms. Let's see. I'll jump into room 6, and then John, it looks like you jump into room 2. Actually, I'll jump into 2, you jump into 6.
Okay.
And And I think it's ready to go. So how many minutes are we going to run this for?
Let's run it for a total of coming back in 10 minutes.
Coming back in 10 minutes. All right.
And within the group, just manage your time up about 3 minutes each.
All right. Let me set a timer. And so it'll probably be more like 11, but anyhow. All right. I'm going to open all the rooms. John, jump into room 6. I'll jump into room 2.
Okay.
Sorry that I put you two together, but it was random, and it had you two with Brett. So had enough time to move Brett to another room, but the rest of the shuffle got too complicated. So I chose to jump with you guys.
Okay. Good. Good, good.
Good. Obviously, both of you have had more history with this than I did, but I first went through this with Brett probably 8 or 9 months ago. I did notice he added an I in the last 6 or 9 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, intimacy.
Yeah, and I noticed that he left it alone. It's like, okay, this is still growing. This is still happening. So
Mm-hmm.
he creates stuff kind of in the same way I do. So I kind of felt his energy of, okay, this is here, but I'm not exactly sure what it is yet. So I'll let you guys think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those deeper conversations I think Brett and I have had a lot as it relates to how much time is spent with people, but that doesn't always equate, in my opinion, to the level of intimacy. And I think he gave an example a few weeks ago of someone that I was working with on a business venture, and we were spending so much time, and I love her dearly, but I'm like, she's not my best friend. I don't even know if I would call her a friend. I love her and I love what we're doing together. And then when you add that intimate layer, that level of intimacy, she didn't know my deepest, darkest secrets or see me cry or, things that I feel are more intimate when it relates to people that are closer. But we shared a lot of time. So it just makes you investigate that level of like, who are you letting in that closely? And what are the expectations, I guess?
That story was fairly profound for me because so much of the inner circle is that way.
Yeah.
And it's shifting my relationship with my spouse because she is definitely the person I spend the most time with. And yet I'm not creating enough. I'm not doing some of the other steps. I'm defaulting to the most time and I'm not being as intentional. And, part of that's a product of 28 years of marriage and 3 kids, and we are just busy as hell with everything else. So while we spend a lot of time, we don't get to create a lot together.
Yeah.
I think one thing I've noticed is everything we're talking about, right, with the eyes, there's a level of being open and being present in your life that comes with being successful. Like you can have intentionality, but if you have, like you were just talking about, Peter, you got a lot going on. You're kind of like in your head, you have multiple paths going on concurrently, right? And so I don't think presence is something that you can just turn on, right? It's something that you foster and it grows. And there is a level of effort required to get there, be it meditation or mindfulness or really evaluating like what your purpose is and working towards that. I always struggle. I mean, I would like to think that I am present and I work on that, but it's hard sometimes. So
Yeah, I think that directly relates to the comments that were shared about quality. Like when there isn't quality, well, what is there? And it's a lack, I think it's a lack of presence,
yes.
right? And
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
You can finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Certain relationships become much more habitual and you're not present because it's, the yoga studio story. You have the habit and the grind of every day. You're with each other a lot, but so much of your presence together is just habitual. You're not actually present to the other person.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting ever since I met Brett and with this framework, and it's been hard to come back to this as a beginner. And, I've taught some Zoom calls with it and I don't want to share too much before he wants to, but the language that we use as people is something that constantly comes up, because even in that conversation that we were all talking about with quantity versus quality in your time, and redefining even like what quality is. And I realized, like, in the conversation that we were all having, I was talking about quality that I was receiving from the relation, and Brett was talking about quality that he was giving to it. And it was like, oh, we just redefine all these terms. One of the ones that was really eye-opening for me even years ago was, what is a friend and how do you define friend? Who resonates at your inner circle? And a lot of it, with his framework, gets into values and like, what do you stand for and who are you and who are those people, places, and things that really resonate there.
Yeah.
But you have to investigate how you're using words and how you're looking at the world around you. Even the term relationship, I mean, people use that very fluidly. I've made a conscious choice to change that to relation, because a lot of the relation is sharing time, space, and energy. A relationship adds that next level, like a friendship, where there's reciprocity in my mind. But just thinking about all these terms, and even when you start having these conversations, that's why I love that he calls it the tribe conversation, because with all the frameworks, it sparks so much between people. Even we're all in this same call, and not even using the word quality the same way, or friend or family. Even Joe Herr sharing his example of what family means culturally to him, very different than in the American way of using family. So that's kind of my lens on just language. Language is a really big part of how you view the world around you and experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
I think I would like to add another layer, like language. Yes, that's one layer. And then like another layer, something that really resonates with me is, the energy signature of someone, right?
Mhm.
Because like depends on what's important to you. Like for me, social impact is really important, right? And kind of finding people that are like self-aware, introspective. And so when you meet people, and you can tell pretty quickly in how people communicate, how um, you know, they behave. You can kind of, it's like we're all energy beings and we can read each other's digital signature. And I think like yesterday, I went to an event for LA Tech Week in Santa Monica. It was like founders and funders and like tech people, random tech people. So you're talking to a lot of people, and I'm just like, who is it? It's not a panel, it's not a structure. You're just randomly at a restaurant and you're just like, go network for like an hour, 2 hours. And I always kind of use that as my inner navigation, is like I tend to, filter people fairly quickly based on just seeing how we mesh together, how we're conversating. There's a lot of things that can come on top of that. Like when someone's tired, they may be like super present, introspective, whatever, high energy signature other times. But when you're tired, it doesn't come through. But that's kind of why I mentioned it's so important to like work on being present with everything else we have going on. But energy signature and just that like spidey senses for me is a big one to gauge how much I want to get to know someone, and I
Yeah.
want to.
The spidey sense is almost like chemistry, right? You feel a certain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what's interesting when you really get into the depth of that, there's attraction in there. And it may not just be like in a sexual or mate sort of way, but there is definitely an attraction that goes with chemistry and energy signature and all of that, where there's almost a resonance. It's like two chemicals coming together and you get a bloom of energy there, right?
Yeah,
And
because we're
sometimes,
energy. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. I was going to say, and sometimes Brett hasn't even touched on this at all in the way this call is going, but that chemistry and that attraction is not good for us, where sometimes it is. And Annika was kind of getting into that, like, how do you know if it's good for your growth to have someone that pushes your boundaries or challenges you? That's good from a growth mindset perspective, but do you give someone too much time if it's disrupting your energy that much? And on the flip side, toxic family members. I come from, where we investigated this a long time ago when we break apart those dynamics of the categories. Family for me is not positive. And Joher and I, had long discussions with Brett where it was so revered and positive for him and so close to his inner circle. And for me, I'm like, I don't even want them in ping. I have drug addicts. Both my parents are passed now. For me, family is a very different term. So there's tribing, but there's also entanglement. And that's where that chemistry factor comes in. We've all, I think, seen or experienced, whether it's on TV or in real life, romantic, toxic, abusive type relationships that are not serving your best interest, but are comfortable, or there's something pulling you together. And it's up for investigation. And having that level of presence, to your point, Sakina, always, choosing to cultivate that in your interactions, it helps you discern a little bit better, like, where do these relations fit? And it can't just be the chemistry, but on like the flip side too, like you're saying, from a romantic standpoint, you're not, even if they check all the boxes, but you don't feel anything with them, with their energy, saying you're not going to date them and pursue it any further. So it's always very eye-opening.
One of I'm an executive coach, and so I get into right where you're touching is the beginning of, why are you choosing certain people in your circle? What is the attraction? What's the need that you're trying to satisfy in choosing that person? And you're right, some people will choose dysfunction, and they have to dig out of them. Why is that dysfunction the thing you're choosing versus something that really enlightens you or it supports you, right?
Yep.
And that's personal, deep work. That's just what it is.
Yeah, for all of us.
Yeah.
I think I look at like a lot, or I listen to a lot of like psychology podcasts because I'm fascinated by human behavior and what motivates people. And so someone had made a comment, it might have been you, Peter, about mirroring. What we see in ourselves, we mirror in other people. And so why do you choose the right people? Why do you choose the wrong people? It's because there's a layer of growth that needs to be had that's not being had. And so you're going to, attract those toxic people until you learn the right way to handle it, I think.
There is blessings or lessons, one or the other. I think we're going to get kicked out in about 9 seconds.
Yeah.
So
great chat, guys. That was good.
Great chat.
For sure.
Great to spend a little time with both of you.
You too.
Good to see everyone back.
We made it alive.
We made it alive. All right. This should be fun and interesting. All right. Well, I guess I get a call on someone.
Who call me?
Ross.
So I was in with Joher and Tia, and I was listening to Tia, and I want to share something that I learned from Tia, which is when I am in an interaction or relationship with someone, and I'm the one who's giving, I value that the other person will give something back. And that's what I call reciprocation, right? But one thing I learned from Tia, and I love this part, which is Tia's also looking to contribute, but she's also looking for the other person to contribute back to her. Not just so much that so she could get something out of it, Tia get something out of it. But Tia mentioned that, I love this, which is when the other person contributes, they grow as well. When they contribute, they get something out of it as well. They grow. It's not just them contributing into Tia and Tia getting something out of it. It's because they contributed, that other person grows and expands as well. So that was the one piece that I got out of that I just found fascinating.
Great job, Tia.
Oh, do I choose?
Yeah.
Okay, Annika, since you're right there.
Okay, yeah, so I was in a group with
One of the things to be conscious about, just on what you just said, Ross, is, oh, do I choose? Yes, because you are the leader in this moment. So you're passing the torch of leadership.
Thank you, John. I will take note of that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm taking the torch.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting with Lydia and with Kim, and we had a very honest discussion, I think, around the fact how we choose people in our networks or don't choose them. And one thing that was common was that we tend to look for potential. Like we see somebody and have a lot of plans and a lot of enthusiasm about the person, and then end up easily in deception because we're not with the reality of that person, or not with the, not really estimating their level of ambition or their own aspiration, and do not dare to be clear with them in that case that with that, level of intention, they might not be part of our tribe. Yeah. That was one aspect. The other one was around our own perception of our worth. Yeah, like do we really have the right to choose people, or wouldn't it be more humble to just say, okay, we're allowing people to come, or or maybe even be trusting that the right people will come, and be more passive, in a way. Yeah. So that's what we have been turning around in that group. Yeah. But it was a very, I would say, graceful discussion. No,
Great.
I choose. Josh, were you in the groups actually? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think what was most like, first of all, really great to be back, and really needed today. And thank you, Brett, again. I had an experience that just really clarified things for me. I've been really a hermit since the pandemic, and I saw some friends at this really large party at a house in New York on Sunday, and it was filled with pings to my intimate circle from my last 10 years in New York. And I hadn't framed it that way. And this whole conversation today really helped me understand it, that we were there for a very short period of time. It was a 6-hour party, but we ended up deciding, my partner and I were going to stay for an hour and a half. And I was very deliberate on spending 5 minutes with certain people, looking at the artwork that was at this house. And I felt really good. I usually feel like I have to come early and stay late, and and I felt really good about being intentional, and I didn't know why I felt good. And I gave people 5 minutes that needed 5 minutes, and some people got 10 minutes that I were closer, and the guest maybe of honor, who's a really close friend of mine, I got more. And I think it clarified it, but also realized I don't need to be a hermit. I can actually just be super intentional with my time. And then I spent the rest of the time walking around the village with my partner, looking at our old apartment and giving him the rest of the afternoon. That brought me a lot of joy, finding sense of what happened on Sunday, Brett. I'm gonna pass it to Kim. Say we haven't spoken either, and with all of her stuff going on too much lately.
Thanks, Josh. Well, I was in the group with Annika, and it was exactly as she recalled. So I think what I observed in the three of us is it is really easy to be clear on what you're struggling with when you're just thinking about you. And then I had these two other women in front of me, and I actually identified with what they're struggling with too, which was very different than what I had shared. And so I started with that I'm feeling overall more than anything right now. I'm just feeling humbled in all the ways. And I once again felt humbled in that room. Like you think you know what your hardest struggle is with this topic. And even that after hearing Annika and Lydia, there was a new truth of, oh, I actually struggle with that piece too. So thank you to them for bringing that up. I think we're processing it together works for me. Let's see. Max Miller.
Thank you, Kim. Max Paul shared a story in our group, and it was really about him stepping out of his comfort zone. Brett, you referred to being intentional about having people in your circles that were not of like mind. And he's launching off into being with a group of people that are definitely outside of his comfort zone and circle. And it just had me thinking, wow, yeah, that is challenging right now for me, in the cultural situation that we're in, to really engage with people who are not like-minded, and how valuable that would be to my intentions, to the life that I intend to create, life by design. And well, let's hear from Max Paul about his experience of sharing that.
Oh dear. Yeah, at this age, I just turned 79 years old. So at this age, I'm kind of, it's a thumbs up or thumbs down with people I meet just in real time. And in about 5 minutes, it's like, bye. Or, hey, Kim, let's get together for coffee, even though we haven't done it since the TED Talk. But the fact is, I can almost instantly get excited about, wow, let's meet and in person. And with all of this group, I am so excited about the day when we all get to meet each other. That's just something that I'm really looking forward to. So just thumbs up and thumbs down. But I'm always excited about trying something way, way, way out of my, that may be culturally, it may be, just in a lot of different ways, because I do work with a lot of people in a lot of different countries. So they come with huge diversity. So there's an excitement with the people I'm meeting today, even though I don't know if that's going to be a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And it's like, well, we're going to know in about 5 minutes after I get down the road, and then I'll report on it next week.
Can I ask Max? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm done.
Max, I want to ask you a quick question. You're 79 years old and you're doing this thumbs up, thumbs down. Why?
Because I'm out of time. Because with what I have left, I've spent the last month visiting people who have Alzheimer's. They're my age and they're dying. They're dying every week, and they have had strokes. They can't talk. They can't remember that we just celebrated their 80th birthday and we did a walk for Alzheimer's. They don't even remember that all of their kids came together to wish him a happy birthday, and he doesn't know why they're in their house. He's very happy that they came to visit him, but he has no clue what we did earlier today to celebrate his birthday.
Thank you, Max. That is 100% why I'm doing what I'm doing. So thank you.
I would like to call on Shakina, because you have an incredibly lovely name.
Thank you, Max. So I was in the group with Allison and Peter, and I think what we talked about were just the layers of, like, when you look at the eyes, right? There's like so many different layers that go that impact how you interact with people and having that 5-minute discussion. Peter talked about how busy he is, his life is, everything that he's got going on. And Allison talked about, her own personal experience with who she considers close, like maybe not as close to like a more traditional like family. And I talked about how like I think being present really influences like how present you are, how self-aware you are, how much effort you put into having conversation. So I just kind of want to highlight there's so many things that are going on as you're talking to people, right? There's like it's a function of your own personal experiences and how that's molded you into a person, how good you are at time management, and basically how present you are and how well trained you are in being present, whether it's through meditation or, however you nurture that. So I think like there's a lot of effort that it takes to kind of, get to a level. It's like a ongoing continual process to be able to optimize your life so you can add the most impact and really get to know people as you conversate with them. That would be my takeaway. I'm going to call on Allison.
Thanks, Sakina. Yeah, lovely chat with Sakina and Peter, and really getting into like those layers. And as you get closer to the center of your circles, like why are you choosing or unchoosing? What's important to you, and how do you show that they're important? And Sakina brought this up about Peter and the example that he shared of, my wife and I, we spend a lot of time together, but we're doing a lot of other different things. And how you can, excuse me, be more intentional with why you're choosing people or why you're choosing to spend that time and what's important to you. But also on the flip side, what's not important and how do you unchoose consciously as well to live a life by design. I loved Sakina's share about, presence being something that's fostered. It's not something that you can just turn on and turn off, but fostering it regularly through all of your interactions on a day-to-day basis. We touched briefly on language. And, they both knew too. I've been in this conversation with Brett for quite some time now, but how language is so important when you use the word friend or you use the word family. What does that mean to you? Even this morning on the call with Ross's comment about quality versus quantity. And then all of a sudden I realized even in our little breakout room, I was using quality different than Brett was using it, and maybe even different than Ross was using it. And just to be really clear on the language you're using as you interact with people. So thinking about importance in all of those layers. And I really enjoyed the breakout session. I liked having the opportunity to chat a little bit more intimately. We barely got to touch on intimacy and on that final I, but what that means and how you can make a setting or an interaction a little bit more intimate. But I felt that in the small group that we were able to share a little bit more freely. So I enjoyed that.
Great.
All right. Who has not? I'm going to call on Kanti. Kanti?
Hello, I was with John and with Christian, and I can summarize our conversation in one word, which is intentional. It's making the 5 minutes or the 5 hours intentional. And Christian said he'd shifted his mindset over the last few weeks from reciprocity into making the moments more effective. And John, unfortunately, took a while to arrive, endorsed that because he was talking about people who you meet in a split second of time and you recognize that they are going to have an impact on you, or they're having an impact on you at that moment. And then he was just in the middle of a sentence and he got dragged away. So in the one word, it's intentionality is where I would summarize this. I don't know, Christian or John, if you have anything else to add.
Sure, I could jump in. John highlighted as well, what's the quality of the space that we're in with each other in this moment? And I was recalling, through life, I have my 5-minute ping opportunities, and sometimes I'm actually not present. I'm kind of going through the motions on this autopilot thing when what if I had really gone into that conversation with intentionality and being, really, creating something with intention in that 5 minutes, what could have been. And then we also recognized in the conversation, like sometimes these things, they don't work out, and that's okay too. At least you know that you brought that intentionality to that 5 minutes or whatever, or 5 hours, however long you spent with them. And then afterwards you get to choose. So, John, anything else for you?
Well, I was struck by the example that you shared of the fellow that you knew who was in business, who put together a structure of 1 day a week he would meet people at a coffee shop, and he would have 1 hour meetings with them and sat there all day long at the coffee shop drinking coffee. And I thought, how brilliant is this? Have people come in, have them get a cup of coffee, have them get themselves settled, and then line them up and move them through and have the conversations that you have with them. In his case, he was, I think, a producer and probably putting together deals and so on like that. But I thought, how brilliant is that? So that was really the fundamental thing. And then the thing that I was kind of resolving in my mind was uh, those people who are not of my tribe, but I've met and I've really maybe had one interaction for maybe a minute or 2 minutes, and it changed my life.
Mhm.
And I know that everybody's had that kind of experience. So that was that. It was a very fruitful conversation for me, even though I'm such a bozo. It takes me forever to figure out how to jump into somebody's room. It's more like I swim through mud into somebody's room. Okay, I'm calling on Ben.
Thanks, John. Well, I think I'll piggyback a little bit on what Christian and you just shared. I was in the room with both Maxes. And as you heard Max Paul describe, he's going from this and this into a situation now where he's having to consider a lot more about the relationship he's bringing on potentially. And we actually discussed from there the quality of liminality and moving through context through all 7 of the eyes, and how if we're present to the context of the choices that we're making with our building or choosing or not choosing, we will potentially gain what's the superior path, but not the most point A to point B path to get to somewhere. Like taking a flight versus driving, you get the context change along the way in your journey versus just arriving on schedule at your destination 2 hours away. And there's a lot to be gained as you go through the spiral of the 7 eyes to pay attention to with that context change and that liminality.
Great. I love that.
I think has Ardis gone? I'm going to call on you, Ardis.
Thank you, Ben. I was in a room with Brett and Josh. We had a really great conversation. What I shared was that as I'm taking on this global initiative, it's been very clear to us, like, if we have to explain, we move on. You don't get the concept of world peace in a 24-hour global concert. It's just been that quick. Like, we've been making requests of people in our network to make videos, and there are some where it's like immediate yes, and we're like, okay, those are our people. We're going to be working with them on this. And then there's somewhere like, if there's even a slight hesitation, we're like, thank you, we love you, we move on. So it's just been that, yeah, laser focus in the last week. And I will go to Lydia.
Ooh, that's exciting. We got really vulnerable in our group, and I'm picking up so many of these conversations. I love it. But with your permission, Kim, may I share your phrase? So owning something and making it as icky as possible so that it's clear we don't want to choose that anymore. I had to face that I have overinvested based on the creative power and strategic power of my experience and my skills. So I come in with, I see how to fill this gap. I see how to move this forward. I see how to make this person. I listen them for their greatness. And I over invest before there's any reciprocity in terms of being seen, being contributed to. Just, I got your back. I'm just there. And that is for me mind the gap between where there's cruelty behind that, which I have never owned. It's just, I'm going to be of service, but it's cruel to ask or intend people to be more different, better, something, more visionary, whatever, than they actually are. And so letting them say back where they are and what they want, and really listen, have the courage to listen for it, and with grace, release that and let it go. That's tough, because I really want to listen them into greatness. So to say, I got it. This is your worldview. Fantastic. And I know there are people who will play like that, but I won't, so I need to, in my heart, let people go faster. And so if I own the cruelty of that, of how hard it is for someone to not be seen where they are or to be pushed beyond, if I own that cruelty, I'll stop it. And Kim said she was a pink slut. And she doesn't want to be that anymore. So I think when we courageously say, what's this horrible thing that I do that I want to stop doing immediately, like now, drop it. It helped us to get really vulnerable.
Good job.
And
Brett, we're coming right down to the end, so you might want to manage for the closing here.
Did everyone go?
Joe Her,
No.
did you, Joe Her? Would you?
Joe Her hasn't gone.
Please,
Tia?
please do.
Tia?
Joe Her.
So Joe Her and then Tia.
Yeah, I think let's Tia go first, because she was the one who was talking. I was just observing.
Okay, Tia.
I would say this conversation has sort of elevated my awareness a lot in terms of being more of an observer of how I'm interacting and what I'm choosing and where I'm investing and where I'm not. And I did a test for the last couple of weeks with one person in particular, and I didn't speak to them. And it was so good. It was so great. It was freaking amazing. And the quality of life that I got out of it was incredible. Like, my quality of life was amazing. And I had a conversation with them yesterday, and I addressed a few things. And even to the bitter end, I know what value I'm providing. I know what's going on now in that relationship. But the bottom line is that, I have to make choices that make sense for me to have the best me, and not just be a giver for the sake of giving, because in some ways that's selfish.
Yeah.
I'm robbing somebody else of their inability to give back.
Yeah.
And I can't have that kind of relationship, because it's not aligned with my values.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people I want in my life. I deserve, and I want, and I request to have the kinds of relationships that nourish me. Because if I don't have that, I have really nothing to offer you, even though I know, even to the bitter end of that conversation, she was still trying to get something out of me, advice about what she wanted in her agenda. But it was a great, because I'm way observing at this point. I'm not sucked in and doing it. So it was a really great test. So thank you for the elevated conversation that's given me a bit of quality of life.
Ah, that is the best.
So Joe, here, go for it.
I think I will just say is that, we need to make sure, it's time and money and energy is all, investments, but we don't think our time is as important than money. So we will not go meet people if we have to go fly somewhere, but we will waste a lot of our time into people which we don't care. So we have to see is like the time is more important than money. As Max said, he's like 80 years old and he just goes thumbs up, thumbs down, because that's what we should learn now rather than when we are 80 years old.
Well said. Okay. Well, I think we're complete. I guess I'll just add a 1 or 2 minutes if that's okay. Just a summary. First of all, I feel like our work here is complete to this stage, but the real work now gets to happen. And you guys have done such a great job at being in the conversation. So thank you for that. I'm honored by that. I want to be used and useful. So to be in this conversation allows me to be used and useful. What I would love for us to consider at the end of the day that this is really about, it's that choosing one thing means you're simultaneously unchoosing several other things. And you can certainly choose however you like to. There is no one that can tell you how or who or what or where to choose. It's your life. But what I'm here to say is that choice is your life. And I think Tia actually said it incredibly well. Josh, you've experienced it. You felt so good after the event that you honored your time and energy and the space. And you could walk away, and what everyone else thought about that or didn't think about that didn't matter, because you're living your best life. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to live our best life. And this is just a tool to help. So thank you. It was a real pleasure. John?
Okay, so I'm thinking that probably the trailer for next week is that Brett is going to share with us this amazing application that he's spent 4 years or 5 years developing with Joe Herr. And so we're about to get turned on to something that's going to be really useful as a tool for all of us in life. And I'm really pleased, and we'll see y'all next week.
Great. Have your phones with you if you want to participate in that. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Brett. Thanks,
Blessing.
everyone.
Thank you.